as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold. The air thickened with the weight of unspoken fears. The year 2024 had barely begun, yet it was already marred by a series of crimes that would leave an indelible mark on society. Each case, more shocking than the last, beckoned to those who sought the truth hidden beneath layers of deception and despair. Among the most haunting stories was that of Emily Carter, a beloved teacher whose life was cut short under mysterious circumstances. Her family, once filled with laughter and warmth, now sat shrouded in grief and confusion. "She was my baby sister," her brother Jake recalled, his voice trembling. "Emily was the light in our family. To know that someone took her away from us, it's like living in a nightmare that never ends." This emotional resonance set the stage for the exploration of not just individual cases, but the broader themes of morality, justice, and the human psyche that would thread through the narrative of 2024's most captivating true crime cases. In each chapter to follow, we would peel back the layers of these crimes, delving into the minds of both victims and perpetrators. We would examine the intricate web of human behavior, the moral dilemmas faced by those seeking justice, and the question of how a society grapples with the darkness within. Would they find the answers they sought, or would the shadows of these crimes continue to loom large over their lives? As the year unfolded, the relentless pursuit of truth would unite detectives, families, and communities, each grappling with their own sense of justice and morality. The cases we will explore are not just stories of crime. They are reflections of who we are as a society and the lengths we go to protect those we love. The journey begins here, with the unsettling truths that will challenge our perceptions and spark conversations that echo far beyond 2024. As the chilling winds of January swept across the town, whispers of Emily Carter's tragic demise echoed through its streets. The investigation into her untimely death had become an unsolved puzzle, leaving behind a community desperate for answers. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, hope seemed to dim, overshadowed by the persistent question: who could have taken Emily from them? Detective Sarah Mitchell, a seasoned investigator with a keen eye for detail, sat across from her partner, Detective Mark Hayes, in a dimly lit interrogation room. "We've combed through every lead, every piece of evidence," she sighed, her fingers tapping restlessly on the table. "Yet here we are, still in the dark." Mark leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "What about the surveillance footage from the night of the incident? The alley behind the school? There must be something we missed." Sarah shook her head. The footage was grainy at best. It showed people coming and going, but nothing conclusive. We're left with inconsistencies that only deepen the mystery. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. It was criminologist Dr. Lisa Graham, who had been brought in to lend her expertise to the case. "I've reviewed the evidence," she began, her voice steady yet laced with concern. "There are psychological patterns in unsolved cases like this. The perpetrator often leaves behind a signature, something that points back to their motive. We just have to find it." As the detectives continued their discussions, the narrative of Emily's case intertwined with another eerily similar story from the past, that of Sarah Jensen, a local woman who had vanished without a trace a decade earlier. The parallels were haunting. Both women were beloved by their communities, both cases had gone cold, and both families suffered from the same agonizing uncertainty. "Do you think there's a connection?" Mark asked, his brow furrowing. "It's possible," Sarah replied, a spark of hope igniting in her chest. "We could be looking at a pattern here. If we can link these cases, maybe we could shed light on what happened to Emily and Sarah." The investigation had become more than just a quest for answers. It was a race against time, a desperate attempt to prevent history from repeating itself. As the detectives dug deeper, the case unfolded like a dark tapestry, revealing a community stricken by fear and loss, yet united in their determination to uncover the truth. In the midst of their investigation, Emily's family remained steadfast in their hope for justice. Jake, still haunted by memories of his sister, spoke to local reporters. "We won't stop fighting for her. Emily deserves to be remembered, not just as a victim, but as the vibrant person she was. We need closure, and we won't rest until we get it." As the detectives and criminologists delved further into the enigma, they realized that the search for truth was not just about solving a case. It was about understanding the very essence of humanity. What drives a person to commit such heinous acts? How do the shadows of the past linger on, shaping the future? With each revelation, the complexity of the human psyche came to the forefront, pushing them to confront the uncomfortable realities of their own lives and the society around them. As the investigation into Emily Carter's tragic death continued, another case emerged, one that would soon intertwine with the haunting memories of her loss. It was the case of Marcus Flynn, a man whose life spiraled into darkness, leading to a crime that would forever alter the lives of those involved. Detective Sarah Mitchell found herself seated across from her partner, Detective Mark Hayes, once again in the same dimly lit room. "We've got a lead on Marcus," she began, her voice steady yet laced with urgency. "He was known for having a troubled childhood, raised in a household riddled with abuse. It's a common thread in many criminal profiles." Mark nodded, flipping through the case files strewn across the table. "Yeah, but troubled backgrounds don't automatically make someone a killer. We need to dig deeper into his psyche. What pushed him to commit such a heinous act?" Just then, Dr. Lisa Graham entered, her expression somber yet focused. "I've analyzed Marcus's behavioral patterns," she stated, taking a seat beside them. "There's a distinct psychological profile here. He exhibited signs of antisocial personality disorder, which often manifests in a lack of empathy and remorse. This can lead to violent behavior, especially when triggered by stressors in their environment." As they discussed the psychological aspects, the narrative shifted to Marcus's family. "His mother's death when he was 14 seems to be a turning point," Sarah noted, her brow furrowed in thought. "It could have created a void that he never learned to fill in a healthy way." "What about his relationships?" Mark asked, jotting down notes. "Did he have any close friends or mentors?" Dr. Graham sighed. "He had a few acquaintances, but they all described him as a loner. It's concerning when someone isolates themselves. It often leads to internalized rage." Meanwhile, the Flynn family grappled with the aftermath of Marcus's actions. His sister, Lily, spoke to a local news outlet, her voice quivering with emotion. "He wasn't always like this. We had our fights, sure, but he was my brother. I keep hoping he'll come back to us, but I don't recognize him anymore." The detectives exchanged glances, hearing the pain in Lily's words. "This isn't just about Marcus. This impacts everyone," Sarah reminded Mark as they prepared to delve deeper into the case. As the investigation progressed, pieces began to fall into place. Witnesses recalled seeing Marcus near the scene of the crime the night of Emily's death. An old surveillance video from a nearby store captured his image, and the detectives quickly moved to apprehend him. "Do you think he knows what he's done?" Mark pondered aloud. Sarah shook her head. "It's hard to say. He might be aware on a surface level, but with his psychological profile, he could very well justify his actions in his mind." The tension in the air was palpable as they approached the interrogation room where Marcus awaited questioning. "This is it," Sarah said, steeling herself for what was to come. "Remember, we're not just looking for answers. We're seeking justice for Emily and her family," Mark reminded her, his eyes steady with determination. As they entered the room, the atmosphere shifted. Marcus looked up, his expression a mask of indifference. "What do you want?" he asked, his tone devoid of emotion. "Let's start with the night Emily died," Sarah said, her voice calm yet firm. "We know you were there." The confrontation that ensued revealed layers of denial and fragmented memories. But it was clear that the road to understanding Marcus Flynn would be long and complex. As the detectives unraveled the threads of his life, the impact of his actions weighed heavily on the families involved, each grappling with their own version of loss and betrayal. The search for closure became a shared journey, a poignant reminder of the darkness that lurks within and the relentless pursuit of light amidst the shadows. As the investigation into Marcus Flynn's involvement in Emily Carter's tragic death deepened, a twist emerged that sent shockwaves through the community. It began with a seemingly innocuous piece of evidence that had been overlooked in the initial rush to judgment: a discarded cell phone found near the crime scene. Detective Sarah Mitchell sat across from her partner, Detective Mark Hayes, in the bustling precinct, poring over the latest developments. "This cell phone could change everything," she remarked, her brow furrowed with a mix of hope and skepticism. "If it belongs to someone else, it could point us in an entirely different direction." Mark leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Or it could just muddy the waters. We've built a case against Marcus based on the timeline and the witnesses. Introducing a new suspect could derail everything we've worked for." Just then, legal analyst Rachel Lewis entered the room, her expression brightening the dim atmosphere. "I heard about the cell phone," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. "This could be a game changer. If the evidence is solid, we need to consider how it reshapes public perception and the legal implications." Sarah nodded, realizing the weight of the moment. It's not just about finding the truth anymore. It's about ensuring justice is served, regardless of where the evidence leads us. Meanwhile, news of a cell phone spread like wildfire. Local media outlets flocked to the precinct, eager to report the story from every angle. "The narrative is shifting," Mark pointed out, watching reporters swarm outside the building. What was once a clear-cut case against Marcus is now clouded with doubt. The next day, a panel of legal experts convened to discuss the ramifications of the new evidence. In a live broadcast, one attorney, Michael Chun, argued passionately this cell phone could exonerate Marcus, or it could lead to the real perpetrator. "We must approach this with caution. The legal system relies on factual evidence, not public opinion." Rachel interjected, "But we also have to consider the media's role. They can sway public sentiment. And if they frame Marcus as a victim rather than a suspect, the case becomes even more complicated." As the debate continued, the public's fascination with the case only grew. Social media exploded with speculation and theories. "What if Marcus isn't the killer?" one user tweeted, igniting a firestorm of discussion. Could the real murder still be out there? In the following days, Sarah and Mark worked tirelessly to analyze the cell phone's data. They discovered a series of texts that appeared to link another individual, an ex-boyfriend of Emily's, to the night of her death. Mark's eyes widened as he read through the messages. "This is it, Sarah. We might have our new suspect." The detectives organized a meeting with the ex-boyfriend, who became increasingly agitated as they presented their findings. "You don't understand. I loved her. I would never hurt her," he shouted, his voice breaking under the weight of the accusations. "Then why were you texting her that night?" Sarah pressed, her resolve unwavering. The tension in the room was palpable, and the ex-boyfriend's denial began to crack, revealing a deeper layer of emotion. As the investigation shifted focus, the public's perception of Marcus began to change. No longer viewed solely as a villain, he became a symbol of a flawed justice system that had rushed to judgment. The community rallied, questioning the integrity of the investigation and demanding accountability. In a local cafe, a group of friends debated the case over coffee. "I feel sorry for Marcus," one woman said, stirring her drink. "What if he's innocent? We can't let the media dictate who's guilty or not." Her friend replied, "But he's still involved somehow. He has to answer for his actions, right?" The conversation illustrated the division within the community, showcasing how the twist had not only impacted the investigation, but also fractured relationships. As the detectives navigated the complexities of the new evidence, they understood that the path to justice was fraught with uncertainty. With the media spotlight intensifying and the public demanding answers, Sarah and Mark prepared for the next stage of their investigation. The twist of fate had transformed their pursuit of justice into a multifaceted web of truth and perception, reminding them that in the world of crime, nothing is ever as it seems. The case of Emily Carter's tragic death was no longer just a matter of police investigation. It had become a media spectacle. The public's fascination with the twists and turns of the investigation echoed through every news outlet, social media platform, and living room across the nation. As the narrative evolved, so did the roles of those involved: victims, suspects, and even the media itself. In the heart of the bustling newsroom, journalist Lisa Grant sifted through the myriad of reports surrounding the case. "It's a double-edged sword," she explained to her colleague Tom as they watched the latest broadcast on television. "We have a responsibility to inform the public, but the allure of sensationalism is hard to resist." Tom nodded, his brows knitted together. "But at what cost? Every time we sensationalize a detail, we risk distorting the truth. Look at the way Marcus is portrayed now. He's gone from suspect to a sympathetic figure overnight." Lisa sighed, leaning back in her chair. "That's exactly the issue. We're caught in a cycle where ratings often take precedence over ethical journalism. I can't help but feel we're playing with people's lives." As they spoke, a graphic popped up on the screen, showcasing a poll on social media. Who do you believe is guilty? The results were overwhelmingly in favor of Marcus's innocence, a stark contrast to the initial public sentiment. "This is what happens when the narrative shifts," Lisa observed, a hint of concern in her voice. Social media has given everyone a platform to voice their opinions, but it also creates an echo chamber for misinformation. Meanwhile, the detectives were aware of the media's impact on their investigation. Detective Sarah Mitchell shared her thoughts with Mark during one of their strategy meetings. "The more the media sensationalizes this case, the more pressure we feel to produce results. It's like they're dictating the pace of our investigation." Mark ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident on his face. "And it complicates everything. We can't afford to make mistakes because the public is watching with a microscope. One wrong move, and we're vilified." In the midst of this chaos, Rachel Lewis, the legal analyst, weighed in on the ethical dilemmas faced by journalists. "It's a fine line," she remarked during a live panel discussion. "We need to report what's happening, but we also have to be cautious. The media can shape narratives, sometimes without even realizing the consequences." During the discussion, a veteran journalist named Greg Thompson chimed in. "When I started reporting on crime, the goal was to seek the truth. Now, it feels like we're more focused on clicks and likes. It's disheartening to think that the value of a story is measured by its sensationalism rather than its integrity." Back in the precinct, as Mark and Sarah analyzed the latest evidence from a cell phone, they couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. "We have to be meticulous," Sarah cautioned. "If we rush to conclusions just because the media demands it, we're going to create a nightmare for ourselves." both in court and in the public eye. As the investigation continued, social media further amplified the divide between public opinion and the legal process. Memes and hashtags flooded platforms, with users crafting narratives that often strayed far from reality. "Everyone thinks they're an expert now," Mark lamented, scrolling through the posts. "It's like a virtual courtroom out there." The growing influence of social media not only impacted public engagement, but also sparked debates within communities. In local forums, residents discussed the ethics of media coverage. Are we really getting the whole story, or just the parts that entertain us? One commenter posted, igniting a heated exchange. As the chapters of Emily's case unfolded, the question remained: how much power did the media hold over the truth? The detectives understood that their pursuit of justice was not just about solving the case, but also about navigating the treacherous waters of public perception, where facts could easily be overshadowed by the allure of a sensational narrative. As the investigation into Emily Carter's death continued to unravel, it became increasingly clear that understanding the psychological dimensions of crime was crucial. A panel of experts gathered to delve into the minds of criminals, seeking to uncover the motivations that drive individuals to commit heinous acts. The tension in the room was palpable as they prepared to discuss the unsettling patterns that emerged from their research. Dr. Angela Reed, a renowned forensic psychologist, leaned forward, her voice steady but charged with urgency. "We often see a common thread among violent offenders," she began, glancing at her colleagues. "It's not just about the crime itself. It's about the underlying psychological issues, trauma, personality disorders, and environmental factors that shape these individuals." Across the table, Dr. Marcus Elmore, a criminologist with a focus on societal impacts, nodded in agreement. "Indeed, we can't ignore the societal influences that contribute to crime. Economic hardship, social disintegration, and lack of access to mental health resources create fertile ground for criminal behavior. Take the case of John Smith," Dr. Reed continued, referencing a notorious serial killer from the past whose profile had become a cornerstone in criminal psychology. Smith experienced severe neglect as a child, leading to deep-seated issues of abandonment. His crimes were a twisted expression of control and power, elements he never had in his early life. At that moment, a younger psychologist, Dr. Leah Thompson, added, "And what about the psychological profiles we're starting to see in the cases of 2024? There's a distinct rise in crimes fueled by social media. It's almost as if the virtual world gives them a sense of anonymity, pushing them towards behaviors they might not otherwise display." The conversation shifted to the societal implications of these findings. Dr. Elmore spoke passionately about the impact of crime on community mental health. When violent acts occur, it ripples through the entire community. The fear and mistrust that follow can lead to increased anxiety and depression among residents. We need to consider how we can provide support to these communities in the aftermath. It's crucial, Dr. Reed interjected, to create programs that not only help individuals who commit crimes, but also those who are affected by them. We must address the mental health crisis that often goes unnoticed. As the discussion progressed, the panelists shared case studies that highlighted the complex interplay between individual psychology and societal factors. One case that resonated deeply was that of Sarah, a young woman who had committed a violent crime after years of bullying and social isolation. Her actions were a desperate cry for help. Dr. Thompson pointed out, "We need to ask ourselves, how do we fail her?" Their dialogue painted a vivid picture of not just the criminals, but also the victims and the broader society that bore witness to the unfolding tragedies. The experts knew that understanding these psychological profiles was not merely an academic exercise. It was a necessary step towards prevention and healing. The conversation took on a more somber tone as they reflected on the ongoing impact of crime in the context of mental health. "We're at a crossroads," Dr. Elmore concluded. "We must change how we view criminals, not as monsters, but as deeply flawed individuals shaped by their environments. Only then can we hope to address the root causes of crime and work toward a healthier society." As the dust settled on the cases that had dominated the headlines throughout 2024, the air was thick with reflection. The families of victims, those who had been touched by the tragedies, were gathering in a community center, a safe haven where they could share their stories and hopes for the future. The somber atmosphere was a stark reminder of the lives altered forever by crime, but it also held the promise of healing and advocacy. In the center of the room, Sarah Martinez, a mother who had lost her son to a senseless act of violence, stood before a small group. Her voice trembled but was resolute as she spoke. "Every day, I wake up wishing I could hear his laughter again. But I also know I have to fight for change. We can't let his death be in vain. We need to push for better mental health resources in our communities to ensure that no other parent has to suffer like I have." Her words resonated with others in the room. James, a brother of a victim, nodded in agreement. "It's not just about justice anymore. It's about prevention. We need to advocate for educational programs that teach empathy and conflict resolution. If we can reach young people before they fall into the cycles of violence, we might save lives." The conversation turned to the justice system itself. Emily, a legal advocate, chimed in with her insights. "We've seen how the system often fails to address the root causes of crime. I believe we need more restorative justice programs. It's not enough to punish offenders. We have to understand why they commit these acts and help them heal as well." There was a murmur of agreement, and Sarah added, "Exactly. When we talk about justice, we should be talking about healing for everyone involved. The victims, the offenders, and the community at large. We need to shift the narrative from punishment to rehabilitation." The dialogue flowed freely, each individual contributing their thoughts and experiences. "We have to ask ourselves," James said thoughtfully, "what kind of society do we want to create? One where we lock people away, or one where we seek to understand and mend the fabric of our communities?" As the discussion continued, it became clear that these reflections were more than just a therapeutic exercise. They were a call to action. The group began to share practical ideas for advocacy, from organizing community workshops to collaborating with local governments to improve mental health services. Finally, Sarah concluded the gathering with a poignant question that hung in the air like a weighty challenge. What will it take for us to truly confront the darker sides of our humanity? Are we ready to look beyond the headlines and ask ourselves how we might prevent future tragedies? The room fell silent, each person lost in their thoughts. It was a question that demanded introspection, urging everyone to consider their role in shaping a more compassionate society. The past had shown them the depths of despair, but it was the hope for a better future that guided their mission. As they left the community center, there was a shared sense of purpose, an understanding that healing begins with dialogue, empathy, and a commitment to change. As the curtain fell on the harrowing tales of 2024, a lasting impression lingered in the minds of those who had borne witness to the unfolding narratives of tragedy and resilience. True crime, while often sensationalized, served a deeper purpose, one that transcended mere entertainment. It sparked conversation, provoked thought, and compelled society to confront the uncomfortable realities of human behavior. In the wake of the stories shared, Sarah Martinez sat in the dim light of her living room, reflecting on the community gathering that had ignited a flicker of hope within her. She picked up her phone and sent a text to James, her newfound ally in advocacy. "Do you think our voices are making a difference?" she typed, her thumb hovering over the screen. Moments latte. James Rapia, absolutely. The more we share, the more people listen. It's about time we start a movement for change. We need to keep pushing for policies that protect victims and address the root causes of crime. Their discussion sparked a series of conversations online, where individuals began sharing their own experiences and ideas for a more just society. Social media became a platform for dialogue, showcasing the collective yearning for reform. It was here that the seeds of advocacy began to sprout, as stories of loss transformed into powerful calls to action. Emily, the legal advocate, joined the conversation, posting an article titled "Reimagining Justice: A Path Towards Healing." In it, she outlined the need for systemic change, highlighting the inadequacies of the current justice system and the importance of restorative justice practices. "We must shift our focus from punishment to understanding," she urged in the comments, inviting others to join her in advocating for a fairer approach. Meanwhile, discussions flourished around the need for awareness and education regarding criminal behavior. Psychologists and criminologists weighed in, emphasizing the importance of understanding the socioeconomic factors that contribute to crime. If we want to make a difference, we need to prioritize mental health and community support, one expert commented. Only then can we hope to break the cycle of violence. As the online dialogue gained momentum, Sarah decided to organize a series of community workshops aimed at fostering understanding and empathy among young people. She reached out to local schools, hoping to create an educational program that addressed conflict resolution and emotional intelligence. "We have to teach our kids that there's a better way," she expressed to James over the phone, her voice filled with determination. "Let's do it," James replied enthusiastically. "Together, we can create a ripple effect that extends beyond our community. We can show them that change is possible." The conversations ignited a broader movement, one that underscored the importance of supporting victims' rights and reforming the criminal justice system. As more people joined the cause, it became clear that true crime stories were not just tales of horror. They were catalysts for change, urging society to reflect on its values and actions. In the closing reflections of this year's cases, the weighty question that had echoed in the community center lingered. What will it take for us to truly confront the darker sides of our humanity? It was a question that resonated deeply, prompting individuals to examine their roles in shaping a compassionate society. As the narrative of 2024 came to a close, the collective commitment to dialogue, empathy, and action remained strong. The impact of true crime had transcended the realm of fascination. It had become a powerful force for awareness and understanding, encouraging everyone to look beyond the headlines and engage in the vital work of healing and reform.